Welcome to Curious Kids Every Day. I'm Josh. How are you doing today? It's so good to hear from you. Hey, have you ever been on a boat? There are all different kinds of boats, aren't there? There are sailboats, kayaks, canoes, pontoon boats. Some boats are tiny, just big enough for one person. And some boats are huge, like cruise ships with swimming pools and movie theaters. But no matter how big or small, boats all have to do one very important thing: float. Have you ever wondered how boats float? Well, let's figure it out today. Now, it can't be that boats float simply because they're light. If that were the case, there's no way a cruise ship would float. Those things are heavy and huge. Do you know how heavy a cruise ship can be? Why don't you take a guess? Nope, even higher than that. Cruise ships can weigh over 200 million pounds. So how do heavy things stay above water? To understand that, we need to talk about something called buoyancy. Can you say buoyancy? Buoyancy is the force that pushes things up in water. It's what helps boats float instead of sinking to the bottom. Here's an easy way to imagine it. When you get into a bathtub and sit down, what happens to the water? It rises around you. That's because your body is taking up space and the water has to move out of the way. Well, the same thing happens with a boat. When a boat is placed in the water, it pushes water out of the way. That's called displacement. Can you say displacement? If the boat pushes out or displaces more water than it weighs, then it will float. So, if a boat weighs 1,000 pounds, it has to push away 1,000 pounds of water in order to float. Let's say you had a big metal block and a big metal boat made from the exact same material. The block sinks right away, but the boat floats. Why? Because the metal block is solid and dense, but the boat is hollow. It has empty space inside. That space spreads the weight out over a bigger area and lets the boat displace more water. Even if that big metal block weighs 1,000 pounds, it's not big enough to move 1,000 pounds of water, so it sinks. Can you pretend that you are trying to float in a pool? Based on what we've learned so far, are you more likely to float if you keep your arms and legs tucked in close to you, or open wide and spread out? Right, spread out. You float better when your weight is spread out wide. Boats are designed with wide bottoms and special shapes that help them push away enough water to stay above the surface. This is true even for giant ships like cargo boats and cruise liners. Now imagine if a boat was shaped like a tall, skinny pencil standing up in the water. What do you think would happen if you dropped that boat into water? Would it float? Probably not. A tall, skinny boat would either tip over or sink. That's because it doesn't spread out its weight very well at all. It's too narrow, so it can't push away or displace enough water to hold itself up. And because it's tall, it's top heavy, so even the tiniest wave would make it wobble and fall over. That's why real boats are usually wide at the bottom. The wide shape helps them stay balanced and float safely by pushing away more water and spreading their weight out. It's kind of like standing with your feet apart. Are you more stable with your feet apart or with your feet close together and one leg up off the ground. So just try to stand on one leg. How stable are you now? Definitely more spread out means more stable. And guess what? It's not just about shape. It's also about materials. Most boats are made from things like wood or aluminum or fiberglass, which are already lighter than water. But even if a boat is made of heavy steel, it can float as long as it's shaped to displace enough water. So to sum it up, big boats float because they are designed to displace more water than they weigh. That's what creates the upward force called buoyancy, which keeps them from sinking. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's have a quick quiz. What's the name of the force that pushes up on things in the water? That's called buoyancy. What happens when something displaces more water than it weighs? It floats. What helps a boat displace a lot of water? Its shape, especially being wide and hollow. Let's play true or false. True or false? A small, heavy object always floats better than a big, light one. That is false. True or false? A cruise ship can float even though it's made of metal. That's true, as long as it spreads out its weight correctly. True or false? If a boat sinks, it means it didn't displace enough water. That's true. That's why it's important that a ship doesn't get a hole in it and let water in, because suddenly then the boat weighs a lot more and it starts to sink. True or false? Buoyancy is the force that pushes things up in water. That is true. Would you rather ride in a glass-bottom boat and watch fish swim underneath you, or ride in a giant cruise ship with a water slide? I've never gotten to take a cruise, but a glass-bottom boat, watching all the fish underneath me, man, that sounds fun. I think I'm going to go with that one. Let's play Does It Float? I'm going to name something, and you shout out if it floats or sinks. Are you ready? A wooden stick. That would float. What about a rock? Yep, rocks sink. What about a sponge? A sponge floats. What about a metal spoon? Metal spoons sink. What about a beach ball? Those float. What about a coin? Yep, coins sink. That reminds me of those wishing wells or the fountains at the mall where people always throw coins in. What about a plastic water bottle with the cap on and full of air? Well, it's wide and light, so it floats. What about a basketball? A basketball floats. What about a bar of soap? Well, a bar of soap is small and heavy, so it sinks. What about a glass marble? Yeah, that would sink too. Ooh, what about a towel? Yeah, it'll probably sink eventually, once it soaks up enough water. Well, now you know, even the biggest boats in the world can float. Not because they're light, but because they're shaped in a way that lets them push away more water than they weigh. The next time you're near a lake or ocean, try to spot the different shapes of boats and imagine how they're using buoyancy to stay afloat. Oh, I've got an idea. Why don't you get some aluminum foil and try to build your own boat? Then try to float it in the bathtub or the sink. See if you can create a design that works. What kind of question do you think we'll ask tomorrow on Curious Kids Every Day? I can't wait to find out, so until then, keep asking questions and stay curious, kids. And for all the grown-ups listening, thank you so much for telling other parents about this show. It just continues to grow every week, and I am so grateful for you. Thank you. Please visit CuriousEveryday.com to get a free printable with activity ideas that don't involve screens. Those are the best kinds of adventures to have. That's CuriousKidsEveryday.com. See you tomorrow.